shows Biden and Trump in a statistical dead heat if the election were held today. President Biden, former President Trump, each have 43%. The remaining 14%, some are saying they could vote for a third party, or maybe they'll just sit home and not vote at all. Despite the head-to-head tie, there are still warning signs for President Biden. The poll finds his approval rating at just 39%. Look at that. Look how many people disapprove of him and his job performance. Trump's Republican rivals with warnings of their own. Here's Florida Governor Ron DeSantis.
To clarify, you don't believe that former President Trump could win a general election against Joe Biden?
I don't think so, because I think that there's too many voters who just aren't going to vote for him going forward. The polls that come out that put I beat Biden in Georgia, Trump doesn't. I beat Biden soundly in Arizona, Trump doesn't. Those are just the realities.
Piers Morgan with a new piece titled, "Wake Up, America, a Trump-Biden rematch in 2024 would be criminal." Our panel, David Avella, GoPac chairman, Kevin Walling, former Biden campaign surrogate. Good to see you both. David, I'm going to start with you. First of all, your quick thoughts on what Piers Morgan just said, and then overall the statistical tie.
Well, we have known since last year that this was going to be a close race between these two nominees, though ultimately I would say, Harris, any Republican nominee is going to make this a very close race because, and you just showed the stat, the president's disapproval rating is so high, but break that down by state. In 40 of the 50 states, Joe Biden has more people disliking his policies than liking his policies. And that's not just in Republican states. Biden's got work to do in Democratic states right now, and it gives Republicans a great opportunity as we present how we would make health care better, how we would give parents more choices in education, what we would do to bring down the cost of everyday goods. We have a great opportunity here with a very weakened president electorally.
So the New York Times, Kevin, dropped its first look at 2024 just yesterday. So this is a second tranche of that. So we're getting even more of an inside look of where voters are via the Times. What's your take on where Biden sits at 43% against Trump? Because people had said, no, one was going to be so much better than the other. That's why they put Biden in. Well, what happened?
Yeah, Harris, I'm with David on this in that it's always going to be a close election. You look at 2016, you look at 2020, a couple tens of thousands of votes in a few states, and the other party was going to win the Electoral College. So we are a very divided country. I think we retreat to our camps, and those dynamics play out as we get closer to the election. But a few key takeaways in this New York Times poll that I'm looking at. Number one, the incumbent president leads with independents, leads with seniors, leads with young people. Those are key constituencies that he won by large margins in 2020, helping him beat the incumbent president. And the other key indicator is right track, wrong track. We're still underwater, obviously, as a country, but that is now a double-digit increase from what we saw in the same poll just a year ago. So as people feel better and better about the economy, you see consumer confidence up, you see inflation down, I think those numbers will improve for President Biden.
All right, I want to press in on that because you still have more than half the country who thinks we're going in the wrong direction. So you're right, it has ticked back from nearly 80%, but you're still 50 or better.
We're still underwater, but we're moving in the right direction.
That's a hard number to move as you go forward now that you're deeper into primary season. As we look at this, David, though, I wonder what are people really going to vote about besides the economy this time? What's your quick take just on voters you've talked with?
Who's going to make their life easier, safer, or better? Who has the ideas to help their economic and personal security, which is what every election is about, Harris?
All right. The New York Times Siena poll shows half of registered Democrat voters would like to see a nominee other than Biden, what I call ABB, anybody but Biden. That's down from 64% in the same poll over last summer. So what do you think their reverse order, David, what do you think is going on there among Democrats?
Well, yeah, once again, you have a Kennedy running to take on an incumbent president, whether that be Teddy Kennedy, who ran against Jimmy Carter, or now you have his son going after President Biden. You have this displeasure in the Democratic field with the president. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I should say, for Biden, there isn't a more credible Democrat running against him, given his his weak numbers. And it also goes to why this president is in such trouble, because you have a Cornel West push from the left. You've got no labels looking to put someone in. And it's why you now have active Democratic groups doing what they can to keep no labels off the ballot, to keep votes going away from Biden.
And don't take away, from Marianne Williamson. She may never rise to the point where she would take the nomination, but when you're getting 9 or 10%, you're doing some damage on the left. Boy, that was such a fascinating comparison. Teddy Kennedy versus Carter, we hadn't seen the lowest numbers that we've seen since Carter. Joe Biden has those now. And then RFK Jr. against Biden. Wow, Kevin, history and the present, your take.
Well, it may, to David's point, repeat itself. But listen, the president has a strong job approval rating with Democrats, majority support in the high 70s. And we've got a lot of work to do. We've got 14 months before this election. Again, in that New York Times poll, the president is leading it with independents, which is a key constituency, young people, African Americans, this core Democratic group. And, the vice president's out there speaking to these groups every day, every other day out in this country. The president's going to do the same thing. And again, we've got a lot of field left to contend this election, certainly.
Yeah. You sneaked in African American votes there, and I do want to point out that they have slid mightily for support for President Biden this time around.
We're going to work on that, too. We're working on that, too, Harris.
All right. Good to see you both. Thank you.
Thanks,
Tomorrow,
Harris.
2024 presidential candidate and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis will join me in Focus. You don't want to miss that. I've got some questions lined up. It's going to be good.